So let's catch up a little bit. Transmission and engine out of the LeMans. Transmission is about half tore down. I'm still fighting to get the timing cover off. I have a replacement timing cover. That's where the leak was coming from. Alright, timing chain cover finally off. Ended up grinding and splitting the area of the timing chain cover. I went over there. See, I kind of threw it away. Alright, so that whole area in there is all broken off. But I was able to free off the stud. And again, I have a replacement. Needs to be cleaned up. Still seems to fortunately have most of this pipe boss. There's there. This all seems nice and solid through there, so I don't think I'll have any issue with it. Yeah, like I said, clean it up. Part of the kit will be a new seal for there. So next, moving on to removing the timing chain set, which looks to be in pretty good shape. Again, this low mile engine on rebuild at least. So got all of the parts that I pulled here. So onto the timing chain cover. I'm sorry, onto the timing chain. So I persuaded the upper pulley wheel off by putting a pry bar between the block and the back and gently prying as I tapped on the front of the camshaft, and that kind of jolted it loose. The other one on the crankshaft here just slid very easily. Okay, I'll remove these two and that'll remove the camshaft. Camshaft is out. As you can see on this end here, that's the distributor oil pump drive. And everything looks good on those bearings, which they should. The engine's got, like I said, a few hundred miles on it since I rebuilt it. Alright, engine's upside down. We're going to remove the pistons by undoing the rod cap nuts. Removing the rod cap, piston should carefully slide out through the cylinder. Alright, all piston assemblies are out. And we went from the back of the engine forward. So what's that? 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Corresponding again to 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Alright, now we're going to move on and get the main bearing caps off. That'll allow me to remove the crankshaft. And we're tearing down the engine far enough that it'll be relatively easy for me to get it off the engine stand. The weight of the crankshaft is pretty significant, so safer. And the reason I need to get it off the engine stand is that I bought a kit of freeze plugs because I had a failure early on in a freeze plug. That's a replacement. I decided just put all new ones in, and there are some that are kind of hidden in behind the engine stand mounting face there, mounting bracket. You can see the kind of sludgy mix of coolant and oil that got pumped through the engine. One of the other things I needed to point out was, you can kind of see down in here, that is missing a skirt. And so I've got replacements, and I'm going to pull the right cylinder number out of my replacements. Came out of 326 as well. And this set will get, this busted up one will get replaced with one of my replacements, which was a low miles one. So I'm also going to remove the engine mounts, clean them up. Allow me to get a better job of painting. I don't know if they're handed, but Let's see how that goes. I'm also going to remove the main caps now. There's the crank. I'm not going to touch it. I'm going to have to clean it up later, but I won't. I'll leave a coating of whatever's on it now. These are all the caps that came off. They've got their bearings in them. Here's the block. It's with the bearings still in there. Here's what's left of the so-called rope seal, I think is what it is. There's also some left in the cap. So one thing I did notice about the engine mounts is that the nut end is towards the rear of the engine. Here you can see a nut here and a through. And somewhere I have I imagine they're on the table there with that collection of stuff, the actual bolts that hold it. So we're going to continue on. I think this is the oil pump. And that would be where the dipstick comes through, but the oil pump mounts here and is driven by the shaft that comes from under the distributor. Probably not in the center. I don't know. Something to think about. Anyway, I'm going to pull these guys off for the starter. Pull the oil filter off. Probably I don't know. Maybe I'll leave it on. We'll see. Pull all these bearings out and set them in line with the caps. So that brass freeze plug is the one I replaced previously, and I've decided to go ahead and go on in and replace the other ones. You can kind of see here. I'll get a better light. Down inside there are the cooling passages. So I've taken some crocus cloth to the opening there, and then I will drive the freeze plug in with that big socket there, freeze plug socket, and a sledgehammer, just making it flush with the face. Alright, so before I put any of the freeze plugs back in, I didn't take this one out like I said, but I did blow into all of these coolant ports with a shop vac here to catch anything that was loose. Excuse me, and did the same thing on the other side having two of these off. Now I'm going to see what I can do about getting the block off of the engine stand so that I can access the freeze plugs that are here on the back side. Alright, smarter heads prevailed here. Before I close off the cooling passages, that should be the last thing that gets done prior to painting. And the reason is that as I scraped the head mounting surface here, there's a lot of flakes of stuff that went down into the water passages. It doesn't make sense to plug them all. You can't just work around them with scraping with a razor blade, like it's on the end of that, and then rubbing everything down again with crocus cloth to clean off any residual. So here's one side done, and I'll do the other side before I attempt to take the block off of the engine stand, because again, once these plugs come out, I'm going to want to put the new ones in. Make sure that everything is clean though before I get to that point. And I'll also have brushes to go down in all of these passages, wire brushes to, again, break loose any crusty, rusty stuff, vacuum it out, blow it out. So, much more to do before it comes off of the stand. So the underside has now been scraped, as well as the other head side here when I spun the engine. My next activity is going to be to get a motorcycle jack somehow underneath this engine block so that I can remove it from the stand, so that I can remove the freeze plugs safely on all those things. Well, that's not sketchy at all. Actually, it's very stable. All I'm going to do is just slide the engine stand back off of the end and then lower it so it's closer and more stable. A little nasty down inside there. It could be a lot of residue from the one freeze plug that crapped out. Now these two I'm leaving in, as well as the one with the cap on it there. And the reason is that they face inside the part of the engine has oil spray in it, so there's absolutely no corrosion on them. So here they are. Two that I just pulled out here at the rear of the engine, and then these three were the others out of the side. The fourth was the brass one that I had already replaced, that I'm leaving there. Alright, so in order to make this engine mobile, put it back on the engine stand. After much scraping, it appears that we have a good 9773371, and that is the correct timing chain cover for a 65 326. Also has other gears. This cavity, by the way, is the back side of the water pump. Water in, water out. Maybe it's vice versa. I think that's the way it is, though. And that goes to the heater core. And this is where the front part of the crankshaft comes through. Oil pan bolts the bottom. This is the side that faces the timing chain, faces the engine. There's a nice gasket that seals off these two passages. And it was in this area where I was having the leakage problem in my timing chain cover, so I had to find someone. Fortunately, Facebook had somebody, and they sold me this. So I'm going to punch out the seal here, and that should be the only thing that's preventing this part from getting all cleaned up. So with 50 degree temperatures predicted for tomorrow, I think this and the engine block will go out beyond my nice driveway. Somewhere to get sprayed down and wire brushed and hosed out thoroughly.